There you see John Cooey inside the courtroom. His trial, he's on trial for the murder, rape, torture of Jessica Lunsford. She was only 9 years old. He is the defendant. A lot of evidence in this case. And we have a guest joining us now here in our New York studio. Stacy Phillips is a family law attorney from California. She's also very familiar with criminal courts. Thanks for being here, Stacy.
Good morning. Pleasure being here.
Stacy, I look at this case. There's tons of evidence. We heard opening statements yesterday where it looks like the defense is holding on to the Magna Carta and some other items that have nothing to do with this case as part of their defense, really meaning they have no defense to guilt or innocence here. Is this trial really about trying to save this man's life?
Well, if you listen to the media, it's not about guilt or innocence. It's about the death penalty and whether he will be put to death.
All right, Stacy. Stacy's going to be with us throughout the program. The testimony is continuing inside the courtroom. All right, a little sidebar taking place inside that courtroom. And still with us here in New York is Stacy Phillips. She's an attorney from California. So, Stacy, you know, what we're seeing here are objections on the basis of chain of custody, that they haven't dotted their I's and crossed their T's to allow this stuff into evidence. What happens in every day in courtrooms across this country? Does everyone who touches a piece of evidence have to come into the courtroom and testify?
Well, technically, you're supposed to establish a chain of custody from the time it leaves the hands of the investigator to the time it comes back. My observation, though, listening to the testimony, is that the defense lawyers are basically grasping at straws because what they're pointing out seems to be the usual course of conduct of what needs to be done to have the evidence evaluated by the forensic or the forensics. So it seems to me that they are making these motions and being overruled quite firmly because they just need to do something to establish what they can, but it seems pretty frivolous.
And keep in mind, what the juries have before them is that mattress that's propped straight up. It's a large mattress, and that is probably the most important evidence in this case because one of the stains on that mattress, according to the prosecution, is a mixture of 9-year-old Jessica Lunsford's blood and 48-year-old John Cooey's semen.
Stacy Phillips is still with us. Stacy, how about evidence like that? There's really no way around it. If the evidence comes in, the jury sees it. I mean, what other possible conclusion can the jury make other than this guy raped this little girl?
Well, it's the visual of the mattress, as big as it is with all those blood all over it, staying in the eyes of the jury for all day today and until they finish the chain of custody is very powerful. And yes, you would think blood, semen, end of story, but we do know what happened in the O.J. case. And there was his blood. And the testimony that 1 in a trillion people would have that blood, and yet he was not convicted. So strange things happen.
Stacy, looking at there's a confession is thrown out, but there's still plenty of other evidence in this case. And it looks like things are going to wrap up next week. You know, why is it, Stacy, that some trials, murder trials, take months, some take weeks, and some just take days?
Well, I think it's a question of the lawyers involved, the judge controlling the courtroom, as well as the plethora of the evidence. This courtroom seems to be running quite efficiently, which is a credit to the judge. And then we'll see what happens with the jury and if there is a penalty phase.
All right, we'll get back to our live coverage of the Cooey case in just a minute.